Hi, this is Norman McKellar. I'm an attorney in Knoxville, Tennessee. And if you're like me, anytime you turn on the news right now, the only thing you're seeing is what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri. So I thought I'd take a minute and talk a little bit about that case and how it applies to residents of Tennessee. Now, whether you agree with the grand jury's decision or not, it's important for each of the Tennessee citizens to know what their rights are in regards to when an officer can exercise lethal force. Now, like Missouri, we have laws on the books that govern when an officer is allowed to use lethal force to arrest or stop a suspect. Now, there are a few considerations that have to be taken into account by the officer. The first is whether there are any other possible ways to stop the suspect. If there are, then the officer has to use those methods. But if all other possible methods have been exhausted or unavailable, the officer has to move on to a two-step process to determine if he or she is allowed to use lethal force. First off, the officer has to have probable cause to determine whether the suspect has committed a felony involving serious bodily injury. Or, second part of the test, the officer has to determine if the suspect is posing a serious bodily threat to either the officer, him or herself, or to those nearby. Now, in those cases, and only in those cases, is an officer in the state of Tennessee allowed to use lethal force to stop a suspect. Just like in Missouri, there's a lot of gray area and a lot that has to be determined based on what was reasonable at the time of the incident involving the police officer and the suspect. Know your rights and make sure if you're involved with the police officer that you don't fit one of those two areas. Otherwise, you too could be putting yourself in danger. This is Norman McKellar with the McKellar Minute.